Skateboarding's journey is a story of evolution. From makeshift boards rolling down sidewalks to athletes soaring through the air today, the sport has grown far beyond its simple beginnings. What riders now achieve would be unimaginable to those early skateboarders. Skateboarding may have started as a simple outdoor activity, but through the decades it has transformed into a thrilling, high-energy sport. Modern professionals perform incredible aerial maneuvers, reaching speeds and heights those first riders could never have imagined. It all began in the 1930s, when adventurous kids strapped metal roller skate wheels onto wooden crates. They had no idea that their small experiment would eventually ignite a worldwide movement. By 1958, the crates gave way to wooden planks when California surfers invented sidewalk surfing, their land-based alternative for days when waves were too calm. They mounted roller skate wheels onto boards and cruised through local streets. Soon, this new craze spread across cities throughout the United States. The deck, the part of the skateboard you stand on, is built from multiple thin sheets of wood, known as veneers. Cheaper boards use fewer layers and lower quality wood, while premium boards are crafted from 7 layers of high-grade maple. Only the top and bottom veneers will be visible, so their outer surfaces are sanded smooth, while glue is applied to their hidden sides. The inner veneers pass through a glue spreader, coating both sides with an adhesive designed to withstand constant shock and vibration. Workers then stack 35 glued veneers, enough for 5 complete decks, and place them into a mold. Since skateboards come in different shapes and sizes, each model has its own custom mold. A powerful press then applies 44 tons of pressure, compressing the layers and forming the deck's signature curves. Excess glue squeezes out, bonding all 5 decks together into a single solid block. After about 3 hours, the block is removed from the press. Next, workers drill 2 sets of holes through the block. These holes will hold the trucks, the pivoting metal axles that let the skateboard turn. Now it's time to shape the block into individual decks. A template matching the model's design is placed on top. It locks into position using the drilled truck holes. Workers then perform a rough cut around the template, leaving about an inch of excess material. Cutting away the extra wood separates the 5 decks. Each deck is then shaped more precisely. Using a detailed cutting template, workers guide the board along a blade to achieve its final outline. A router rounds the top and bottom edges, giving the board its smooth transitions. Then, every surface is refined using a drum sander. To achieve a flawless finish, workers switch to a buffer equipped with brushes and fine grit sandpaper. This removes even the smallest wood fibers, leaving the deck perfectly smooth. In the finishing room, the decks are sprayed with a clear primer that seals the wood's pores. This ensures the lacquer applied next will sit evenly on the surface. The primer dries for about 2 hours. Then the boards receive a coat of clear or colored lacquer, leaving a glossy, protective finish. This layer also requires 2 hours to dry. The last stage is decoration. Bold graphic designs are printed on plastic transfer sheets, either purchased or produced in-house using silk screen techniques. Workers carefully align the design and feed the deck through a machine that applies heat and gentle pressure. At around 390 degrees Fahrenheit, a chemical reaction bonds the ink and lacquer together. When the plastic sheet is removed, the graphic is permanently fused to the board. From its earliest homemade beginnings to today's polished professional standards, skateboard manufacturing has come a long way. And with every deck built, a new rider gets ready to carve, cruise, and chase the next evolution of the sport. Everything changed for skateboarding in the early 1970s. The moment polyurethane wheels replaced the old metal and ceramic ones, riders suddenly gained real grip, real control, and the freedom to push the limits. Tougher wheels, smoother rides, and game-changing shock absorption transformed skateboarding into the high-energy sport we know today. Since then, skateboard wheels have evolved into countless sizes, hardness levels, colors, and graphic designs, each one a mix of performance engineering and personal style. And behind every wheel is a detailed manufacturing process that blends precision, creativity, and science. It all begins with a computer-generated design. A designer uses advanced software to guide cutting tools, which carve into a solid aluminum puck. This puck becomes one half of a wheel mold. Then, another aluminum block is shaped into the second half, perfectly aligned to fit the first. Not every mold is a two-piece design. Some are formed as a single solid unit, with a central pin that creates the bearing cavity inside the wheel. Once the molds are complete, a nozzle injects freshly mixed liquid polyurethane into them. The material starts to thicken almost immediately. To finish the curing, a worker slides the filled molds into an oven, baking them at nearly 240 degrees Fahrenheit for about 40 minutes. During this time, any trapped air bubbles rise and dissolve, leaving behind a strong, flawless wheel with no hidden weak points. After baking, the molds cool and workers remove the center pins. At the next station, compressed air is blasted between the wheel and the mold, popping the wheels out cleanly. A technician then checks the hardness of the polyurethane using a durometer gauge. If the sample wheel meets the required standards, the entire batch moves forward. Next comes shaping. Each wheel is clamped into a lathe, and as it spins, an automatic cutter smooths and rounds the edges. This gives skateboard wheels their familiar curved profile, built for better handling and smoother rides. Now it's time for the visuals. An artist chooses and arranges graphic designs on a computer, then prints a film negative of the artwork. Using this negative, a worker creates a printing plate by placing it over a metal sheet coated in light-sensitive emulsion. Inside a UV chamber, light exposes the plate, transferring the artwork onto its surface. A special solution washes away the unexposed areas, etching the image cleanly into the plate. After a final rinse and drying, the artwork is ready for printing. A magnetized ink cup is positioned on the plate and placed into a pad printing machine. An operator loads wheels onto posts that advance them forward. The ink cup lays down ink. A silicone pad picks up the artwork and then stamps it onto each wheel with precision. One by one, the wheels are printed and set aside to dry. Before packaging, a final performance check is done. A wheel is clamped into a rebound testing device. A metal ball is dropped onto it, and the technician measures how high the ball bounces, because a high rebound means a better, more responsive wheel. Once approved, the wheels are wrapped in plastic and heat shrunk for shipping. From start to finish, the entire process takes around 3 days. But how long those wheels last? Well, that depends entirely on the rider and how they choose to roll. Every crack of the bat, every home run, every unforgettable moment in baseball starts with a perfectly crafted piece of wood. Most bats are made from ash, maple, or birch, each type offering a unique balance of strength, flexibility, and weight. The logs are carefully selected, cut into billets, and left to season, ensuring every piece has the perfect moisture level for crafting. Next comes the shaping. Each billet is mounted onto a lathe, where skilled craftsmen or automated machines carve it into the familiar shape: a thick barrel, a slender handle, and a perfect taper in between. Precision is key. Even a few grams can change the swing speed and impact. Once shaped, the bat is sanded smooth, removing imperfections and giving it that flawless finish. Every bat is weighed and balanced to meet league standards, ensuring consistent performance in every swing. Now it's time for identity and protection. Logos are laser engraved or branded into the wood. Then each bat is dipped into paint, stain, or clear varnish, not just for looks, but to seal the wood and prevent moisture damage. That iconic glossy shine you see on the field? It's all in the finish. Before a bat can be swung in a game, it's tested for durability, straightness, and weight accuracy. Only the bats that pass these strict tests earn their mark, ready to face pitches flying over 90 miles per hour. Every goal, every pass, and every moment of magic on the field begins with one thing: the football itself. But have you ever wondered what goes into making this iconic piece of sports gear? Every football starts with a design. Engineers decide its size, weight, and number of panels, usually 32 panels, 20 hexagons, and 12 pentagons, perfectly balanced for flight and control. Computer simulations help test aerodynamics before a single piece of leather is ever cut. Modern footballs aren't made of leather anymore. They use synthetic polyurethane or PVC for better water resistance and consistent bounce. The material is printed with brand logos, grip textures, and color patterns. Then, precision cutters slice it into those classic panels that will soon form the round shape we all know. Each panel is hand-stitched, or with a machine sometimes using over 1,500 stitches to make sure the ball can handle thousands of kicks and impacts. Some high-end balls are thermally bonded, meaning no stitching at all, just seamless panels fused with heat and pressure for a smoother surface. Inside every football is a latex or butyl bladder, the part that holds air. It's carefully glued inside the stitched shell, then inflated and tested for perfect pressure, shape, and balance. Quality control ensures it can stay inflated for hours of play, no matter the weather. Every finished football goes through strict tests: weight, circumference, roundness, water absorption, and rebound. Only those that meet international standards receive the FIFA quality mark. Finally, they're packed up and shipped worldwide, ready for playgrounds, stadiums, and championships. Badminton looks simple, until you see what goes into making the perfect racket. Every racket starts as bundles of ultra-strong carbon fiber. These fibers are arranged in layers, coated with resin, and carefully cut into specific shapes. This material keeps the racket light, but incredibly strong. The sheets are then placed inside a steel mold shaped exactly like a racket frame. A bladder is inserted, pressure builds up, and the entire mold is heated. This bakes the fibers into a solid, unbreakable frame. Next comes precision drilling. Every single hole in a racket matters, both for the strings and for balance. Robots drill dozens of holes with micromillimeter accuracy, ensuring perfect tension during gameplay. The frame is rough when it comes out of the mold, so workers hand sand every edge and curve, making the frame smooth, aerodynamic, and comfortable for players. Now it's time for the signature look. Automated sprayers apply multiple layers of paint, base coat, color, and glossy finish. This is where the racket gets its unique style, from subtle matte designs to bold neon looks. The carbon fiber shaft is attached to the frame using industrial-grade adhesives. A wooden or composite handle is fixed at the bottom, wrapped tightly with grip tape that absorbs sweat and gives players total control. Then comes one of the most important steps: stringing. High-tension synthetic strings are woven in a specific pattern. Professionals often prefer 24 to 30 pounds of tension. And yes, even a single mistake can ruin the racket's performance. Every racket undergoes strict testing: weight check, balance point measurement, frame durability, string tension. Only the best rackets make it out of the factory. Have you ever wondered how a simple orange ball becomes the heart of one of the world's most exciting sports? From raw rubber to a perfectly bouncing game-ready ball, the making of a basketball is far more complex than it looks. Every basketball begins far from the court, in rubber plantations. Natural rubber is collected from rubber trees, then blended with synthetic rubber to create the perfect balance of strength and flexibility. This mixture is heated and rolled into thick sheets, forming the foundation of the basketball's inner structure. Next comes the bladder, the part that actually holds the air. Manufacturers mold the rubber into a spherical pouch, making sure it's airtight and durable. This bladder is carefully tested so it can hold pressure consistently, ensuring the ball keeps its bounce during intense play. To strengthen the bladder, thousands of tight nylon or polyester threads are wrapped around it. This step is crucial. It helps the basketball maintain its shape, provides long-term durability, ensures consistent bounce and feel. This layer gives the ball that familiar firmness players rely on. Now, it's time for the iconic look. Basketballs get their outer cover made from genuine leather, synthetic leather, or rubber depending on the level of play. The material is cut into 8 precision panels that will wrap around the ball. These panels are glued onto the reinforced bladder and stitched or heat bonded, depending on the ball's design. Those black lines aren't just for style, they improve grip and control. During manufacturing, deep channels are carved or molded between the panels to help players handle the ball more effectively. After passing tests, the basketball receives its final touches. Logos, brand names, and model details are printed on the surface with heat-based printing technology. Every cricket match begins long before a batsman walks to the crease. It begins here, in a workshop, with a simple block of wood. Today, we uncover the amazing journey of how a cricket bat is made. The story starts in the forests of English and Kashmir willow. Long, straight grains, no knots. Only the strongest wood survives selection. Each block of wood, called a cleft, is chosen with one purpose: to one day strike a cricket ball with power and precision. These clefts are stacked for months, quietly drying, slowly hardening, naturally strengthening. This process, called seasoning, decides how long a bat will last. Good willow needs patience. There are no shortcuts. Once ready, the real craftsmanship begins. The wood is trimmed, carved, and shaped by skilled hands. The spine, the edges, the sweet spot. Every curve is carefully created to balance power and control. Here, the cleft finally starts becoming a bat. Next, the bat passes through a heavy hydraulic press. Each press compresses the fiber of the willow, making it tougher, stronger, and giving it that iconic ping. This step can make or break the bat. Too much pressure, it cracks. Too little, it loses power. While the blade takes shape, the handle is made separately. Layers of cane and rubber are laminated together to absorb shock and give perfect flex. The handle is then glued firmly inside the blade and bound tightly with thread for extra strength. Now comes the artistry. The bat is sanded again and again. The weight is adjusted, the edges refined, until the bat feels perfectly balanced in the hands. A great bat doesn't just look good, it feels right the moment you lift it. With the shaping complete, the bat gets its identity. Brand stickers go on, a fresh rubber grip is added, and the blade is polished for that smooth, glossy finish. This is where the bat finally starts looking ready for the game. Before a bat faces its first ball, it must be prepared. This step is called knocking in. Each tap strengthens the fibers, reducing the chance of cracks and giving the bat its final performance boost.